Hey Scorpio, we're going to do your May 2020 monthly practically soulful reading. This is your first time here. My name is Ali from Indigo Ascension. You can find out a little bit more about the work I do as an intuitive energy healer in the links below to my Facebook and my website address. This channel is targeted to those that might identify as empaths, intuitives and sensitives, those that are on an awakening journey. And with the monthly readings in particular, my intention and my goal with them is to ground that higher knowing into the everyday practical realities that we find ourselves in. So it's all well and good to say that we're connected into our soul purpose and path, perhaps, our higher consciousness, higher knowing, our intuition. However, it's there for a purpose, and I do deeply believe it is as part of our awakening and ascending a journey. It's about infusing our everyday reality with that extra magic, that higher knowing, and to successfully blend the two is perhaps then embodiment and integration, so that we have an expanded experience of what could otherwise just be an eat, sleep, repeat routine. So that's the goal with Practically Soulful. It's about checking in with self and soul to make sure that we're always sort of aligned to that, because I do feel that imbalances do happen when we're not aligned to our intuition and our higher wisdom, that we experience blocks and challenges in that regard. So let's take a look, Scorpio, at what story the energy wants to tell for you this month, what it is that you're integrating and learning, and how that might be playing out in the different experiences that you are going through at present. So the intention is that I connect in with all those who are crossing my path for higher wisdom, confirmation of what they intuitively already know. Perhaps it's to activate some inspiration, or it might be to close off chapters and provide healing, for something you have recently gone through. So I identify frequencies, I pick up on storylines, but I do tell all those who get readings off me that, free will and choice is our divine birthright and is the navigator of change. So at any point in the timeline, you can then choose what reality you want to call in and manifest. So I will pick up simply on what it is that I'm picking up on at present, which can completely change tomorrow, that you're well and choosing. So let's have a look, my lovely Scorpio. Loneliness. Above this is relationships. Below this is self-esteem. In the past is pride, and in the future we have discipline. Interesting mix, my lovelies. All right, there's a lot of deeper wisdom that's being integrated for you this month in many ways, and you are embracing the energy, the light and shadow aspects of empathy. I was actually really drawn this morning to do a Facebook post that I have not done yet, and I wanted to talk about the shadow elements of empathy. It's a beautiful thing to genuinely have empathy. I think I referred to it on an earlier post on the Facebook page about it being the butterfly effect of the human spirit. And as many of us are so well versed and well and truly know that the empath can struggle quite commonly out there in the mainstream world, absorbing too much energy, or feeling overwhelmed with the emotional imprint that they pick up off on others. And in many ways we can look at the role of the empath as a light and shadow aspect, and in realizing our greatest potential as empaths, we must also experience the shadow elements of it too. So perhaps it is esteem or loneliness that has guided our relationships and the roles we have played as empaths. Now, it's all well and good to be able to feel everything that someone else might feel, Scorpio. It's quite another thing than to subconsciously begin some patterned behavior that sees us carry the burdens and responsibilities of others, or feel burdened by the emotional weight of an individual's experience that isn't a part. I'm not saying they're not a part of our journeys, but if true love is about having that full faith and belief that someone can navigate their own journey, hold their own emotions, make their own mistakes, then in expressing our love, perhaps that is about us then fully accepting and surrendering to that fact that they are free to journey on their own, regardless of if it's different to how we would do things, regardless if we find ourselves at different points in a soul growth timeline, whatever the case may be. Like I'm seeing this connecting dot here, these connecting of dots here that's happening. I do see there's been influences of pride in the past. Now that can play out in a number of ways. You know, I love myself and I see myself in everyone. Do we feel we have to come from this empathic drive, which is perhaps even a shadow element, where we are telling people, no, don't do it that way, because I've done that before and it'll work out like this, because we are on, there's a deeper part of us that, you know, is guided by love and empathy, and we don't want to see suffering. We don't want to see someone we care about suffer. And that's the challenge, yeah? Do we trust in the value of wisdom so much that we surrender and allow another to experience their journey at their pace and through their own choices and will? You know, and I think that's what I was trying to refer to when it comes to this shadow element of empaths that we all must navigate to successfully. It's always about getting to the crux of the intention behind my empathy, and why am I so burdened by it, if at all? What needs to be disciplined here? What needs to be addressed when it comes to self-esteem, pride, loneliness, relationships? Am I choosing connections purely out of loneliness? Am I not experiencing genuine connectivity in my relationships because I'm choosing to instead be lonely? And there's self-esteem stuff at play here. I feel like I'm connecting to Scorpios that deeply know that they are empathic, but there's this push-pull energy I keep feeling of how that perhaps hasn't served you in the past. Now, I use the word served in a very loose context because it's always about service to the one, okay? So when I say that, you can use that terminology however you wish. But essentially, you know, if we are all on the same mountain, we are all traveling the same journey, we're at just different points in the timeline. That's when pride can kick in. That's when judgment can kick in, when we start to see other people as not beside us, but in front or behind. That's when self-esteem can start kicking in too. We can start to feel lonely because other people essentially aren't on the same page. But we are on the same mountain, Scorpio. We are on the same path. And it's our very human conditioning, beliefs, fears that hold us back in that judgment energy of pride and self-esteem, yeah? Because with true discipline, then the gift of that empathic ability, that the gift of that empathy can be really infused thoroughly. I'm seeing something so complex, and I felt the big need to mention, you know, what I talked about earlier about the shadow and light elements of being an empath. We're well and truly accustomed to hearing that, you know, empaths are narcissist terminology and phrasing, you know, but in all essence, that too still is judgment. And I don't say that lightly. That too still is saying that someone is not, you know, where we're at. So there must be some level of pride, victimhood even. It feels quite complex. I feel like I'm speaking to Scorpios that are no longer connecting into their networks in the way they once did, and perhaps even with genuine empathy for self, that you are now expanding and becoming more disciplined in how much of your energy you do give. So there's two sides of the stories that I'm picking up on, you know. This is so vital. It is actually so vital when it comes to our roles as empaths, as healers, as, you know, when we're connecting into the energy of another, of others, you know, we can naturally want to play these roles that we play, that we have been conditioned to play, perhaps, Scorpio, but yet it becomes apparent that our constant will in choosing to serve others does not serve self, especially in the realms of empathy. we must have empathy for self first. I am open to seeing both sides of a situation. Okay. Maybe there has been conflict that has been caused or has resulted because we're not seeing eye to eye, we're not seeing things from an empathic point of view, we're not using our inherent empathy to genuinely see that, you know, those that are in our lives are there for a higher purpose and a higher reason that is much more bigger than the conflict at hand. But you're definitely learning a lot of wisdoms around this energy of loneliness, not feeling connected to your networks, but yet wanting some form of connection. You know, reviewing all connections to date in many ways and the role you have played. I keep feeling a need to focus on the role you have always played and how that is fundamentally transforming and changing within your relationships, within how you connect to others, intimate or otherwise. And perhaps even there's a connection in your life that you're going to be seeing in a whole new way, okay? If there is current conflict, if there is current confusion or an uncertainty about how best to move forward, okay? Because there is a call to be disciplined about empathy here, whether that's for self and for another, okay? But we always start with empathy for self first, but perhaps it starts to get a bit imbalanced when pride gets in the way. Let me take a look at what the tarot wants to clarify for you, my dear. Because at the base of all this, Scorpio, there's something about you that is deeply transforming and wanting to come out. This next level of yourself, this next level of the role you play within your community, within your networks. Because I'm looking, forget about the words, okay? I'm looking at this energy like the role you have played for your immediate family, friends, is now going to expand. You are going to play that role for more people. You might have always fundamentally just been the go-to as the counselor, as the empathic healer for your family and friends, and something that you've never done formally for others, you know. Because I do see here under this bridge, you're questioning, you know, when it comes to, oh, can I do it? Is it right for me? Is it the right next step? You have gifts from the soul that benefit others. There's something here that ties into your empathic ability, your relationship with worry and stress, and how you've essentially dipped into empathy in order to balance and heal that. The key lessons and wisdoms you have gained from all your relationships in your life, challenging or otherwise, has gifted you with deeper wisdoms that you have been able to, and you can integrate, you will be able to integrate, and thus then go and teach others how to do so as well. That's a specific storyline of a Scorpio that I'm picking up on here, because I feel like there's a mapping system that happens when it comes to the discipline card, which is the energy that you will be moving into. This coming into awareness about this next level of your role, yourself, your service, what you offer others, okay? It's growing and enhancing, and it's particularly been seeded in the recent conflicts that you've had with others, or within the conflicts you've had your whole life. The dynamics that you've learned and grown within, yeah, challenging or supportive, they've all served a purpose. They've all been teachers. It's almost like this cryptic navigating of this higher soul purpose and path for you that's happened in situations that you thought, well, oh my God, why does this stuff always happen to me? But it's actually been your training classroom, Scorpio. I feel that's relevant for a Scorpio that's watching. Let's take a look at the tarot, my love. The Three of Cups, family, boundaries, the Seven of Wands, and the Hermit. You're definitely retreating when the Hermit card shows up, and you're centered by loneliness. You're retreating away from dynamics, the old roles you have always played within family, connections, friendships, the way you've, you know, connected in intimately with others, the world. You're closing a chapter here and you're moving towards more peace. Four of Cups, but there's a new opportunity that you may not want to take up immediately. You're a little bit afraid of this new beginning, this new chapter, which is going to take some strength and courage, thanks to the Strength card. But you will feel excited about it thanks to the Page of Wands. There's a karmic balancing here thanks to the Justice card. So many of the zodiacs are actually getting some very similar energies in their readings. okay? You are definitely in retreat mode. The past has definitely come up to play. This is what I was talking about earlier. There's fundamentally something shifting deeply within you about the role you have always played within connections, within family, within friendships, the type of energies you have been vibrating along with, okay? It's almost like once this key happens within us, it's like that old timeline, the reflection of the reality around us falls away. Old friendships, old connections, long-term connections, friendships, family members fall away when we ultimately graduate and ascend within ourselves, within our consciousness, because we're naturally vibrating at a whole other energetic frequency. This new version of ourselves, thus then attracts in our new tribe, our new reality, yeah? Because we've shed the old. I feel that very strongly here, and I feel it's connected into your path and purpose about this next offering of self, this next offering. And I feel like I'm even speaking to Scorpios that aren't necessarily supported. They're feeling alone and unsupported by their immediate connections, family or otherwise, because you're wanting to follow something. You're wanting to follow a particular path. It could be spiritual, it could be life choices, you know, name your thing. But I feel like you are unsupported and thus you're retreating. But you are holding fast to what you deeply believed as far as the wisdom of your own journey within your own heart. You know and respect, and this is the challenge for you this month, you know and respect everyone is unique unto themselves when it comes to their own wisdom, learning journeys. So it's very natural, you know. I often say I hate what fear does to people, because it's almost just regurgitated without even being thought. Oh, you can't do that. Oh no, that shouldn't. Oh, you've got to be careful. Like underneath all of that is this frequency of fear that is not necessarily tangible in the fact that it's based in fact. Oh, you need to hold on to your job. Why do I need to hold on to my job if I'm not happy and it's affecting my mental health? You know, something more appropriate and expanded might be, you know, have you thought about next steps? How are you going to, you know, I think we're almost reactionary in our fear, which ultimately makes others feel unsupported. And I feel like I'm speaking to Scorpios here that do feel currently alone on some level. You might be in a house full of people. You might feel like the Lone Ranger within your family, immediate friend circle when it comes to your opinions, views, desires, the path you want to navigate moving forward. Make no mistake, you are closing a massive chapter. And this can be happening in internal levels, but you are no longer reacting or responding to the dynamics. You are no longer playing the role you have always played, is what I keep hearing, Scorp. And that is about you no longer allowing boundaries to be crossed. Did I see the Seven of Wands? Yeah. In your wisdom, in your going within, you have perhaps even seen how your role as an empath, or how a distinct lack of empathy has seen boundaries continually be crossed in your experience when it comes to family and friends. I'm going to even just say family. Your boundaries have been crossed in relation to a third-party situation. You're becoming wise about how boundaries have been crossed in relation to a third-party situation. Third-party situation is not just about cheating. It is a third-party influencing energy that upsets the dynamic within relationships and family and connection. That could be anything. I feel like I'm talking to Scorpios that are moving into warm, peaceful waters, okay? You know, in this deck in particular, the Six of Swords, if you look closely, it has a little froggy down the bottom. It's amphibians, you know. I think we take for granted nature in so many ways, but how amazing is nature? Like butterflies, for example. Two completely different creatures, the caterpillar and the butterfly. Maybe our form doesn't completely change shape too many ways, Scorpio. Maybe we get a little bit grayer, a little bit more wrinkly, a little bit slower as we transform in age, yeah? And sometimes within a very short space of time, a year, 4 years, whatever the case may, 3 weeks, you know, I'm just using that as timing examples. In a very short space of time, we can just wake up and suddenly realize we are not who we used to be. We too have the gift of the animal kingdom, who are able to shape shift because we are doing it from a consciousness level. We are seeing how our boundaries have been pushed too many times. We are becoming wise to how we were perhaps unhealthily motivated by beliefs of relationships and connections that were modeled to us in childhood even. That we just don't cause conflict, we don't speak our truth, because children should be seen and not heard. You know, there comes that pride can get in the way of truly expressing our voice and our love and our deeper feelings. And that you know, it's not okay to, it affects self-esteem if we start to explore too much of our emotions. Because communication is a challenge here. Communication is the challenge here, I do see. And definitely there must be some Scorpios that I'm connecting into that have experienced a relationships breakdown because of communications and a lack of empathy for seeing both sides of the, you know, for not seeing another's point of view clearly in the same way. I feel like I'm speaking to Scorpios that are moving away. And in that moving away, you are transforming. Yeah, you're moving away to more peaceful waters, and you might have in the recent past, okay, felt not quite sure about whether to take an opportunity to do so, take a new beginning, take a cup that was being offered to you perhaps, but in many ways you are, because you are closing a chapter. And in doing so, you close a chapter and thus move towards more calmer waters. When the World card shows up, you are definitely closing a chapter. The old you is gone. The old world is wanting to go away. And it doesn't even mean that relationships have to completely transform and your life has to end and this is changing and whatever the case may be. It doesn't even have to be reflected on the physical. It can be all internal. But remember what I do want to say now that I think of it. See this World card and expanding. Hold on. And what I was saying earlier about expansion. Now remember what I said, so just focus on this World card, okay? Ending of a chapter or expanding or creating a whole new world. Seeing your world in a whole new way, or this consciousness shift creates a whole new world, yeah? But this expansion, what you used to do or what you're currently doing for just family and friends reaches a global or a larger network. I feel like that's a particular storyline for a Scorpio out there. Something you have always been for your close networks is thus it's expanding, perhaps even in the second week of May, or becoming aware of how much you're wanting to expand something that you've always done for family and friends. You're making that on a bigger level. Maybe you're walking into a profession and you're formalizing it, okay? Is what I wanted to say. There's a karmic balancing here that has taken some courage, but ultimately in choosing that, guys, quiet please, in choosing to take this opportunity, thanks to the Page of Wands, take the opportunity to be courageous, okay? So the Strength card talks about a woman prying open the jaws of a lion. As a move, as an intention, I know that this card doesn't have it, okay? But in traditional tarot, that's what she's doing. She's prying open the jaws of a lion. Leo energy this year, the 8th month of the year might be significant for you. Maybe Leo energy from last year is significant for you, or an 8-month story, all right? The very act alone of someone, a human being, wanting to pry open the jaws of a lion can seem ridiculous, you know? Fear does funny things to people. It can hold them back. But true belief against all odds can also be something quite illuminating. And I feel like I'm speaking to Scorpios that despite what's in front of them, despite the challenges and situations, you have taken an opportunity to be brave, and karmically balance something. Sure, when the Adjusted card shows up, that could quite literally be law, courts, orders, to close a chapter. And in moving towards peace, you know, in moving and towards a whole new world, you know, after cutting something away, not feeling nervous about not taking that next step. There's a karmic balancing here that happens naturally, yeah? And it is this journey that has taught you a lot more than anything. There's a journey. You can retreat safely. You will be experiencing a retreat into yourself. You hang up your swords. If this is an ongoing conflict, you can then hang up your swords. This is about boundaries getting pushed, guys. Look, I'm practically seeing that someone has had their boundaries pushed to the point that they've had to probably even take legal action, okay? They've had to take legal action to end something. And sometimes something doesn't end unless there is a definitive full stop in the form of a court order or something to that effect. Because what I do want to say, when you do that, you can peacefully hang up your swords. There will be no more conflict. And there's actually, the money is there. And when I use that, I can use that metaphorically, like the wheel karma, the scales will tip in your favor. The money is there, yeah? If you are physically getting money from this as a settlement, the money is there. This is equal reciprocity. And in putting down a boundary with others, in our relationships, we eventually get the boundaries honored, you know? Because I feel like I'm speaking to a Scorpio that's had enough of being in the waters of their emotional body and choosing empathy at all costs, because it's the right thing to do. You're very much in the air element thanks to the Queen of Swords. She does not need to be reminded that a boundary needs to be put down. You will in fact know her. The minute you meet her, you will know not to cross her. And it's not a fear thing, it's not a threatening thing, but it's that age-old thing that sometimes people think that kindness is weakness. They think that congeniality is naive, but it's not. Just because we're intuitive doesn't mean we do not know. We cannot read beneath all surfaces, and no matter how they're presented. It can be actually quite sad. You're hanging up your swords here, and you're definitely looking at an old situation, an old world, old life, old timeline, with less clouded emotion and more clarity. Okay, a relationship, a connection. It has taught you a lot though. This journey within that connection has taught you a lot. You have evolved and grown in yourself. The journey itself was necessary in order for you to become who you are. And like I said, I feel like you have learned something here that can thus be transferred to others in their healing journey when it comes to understanding the dynamics of play within families, connections, relationships, how we allow ourselves to fall into roles. You know, maybe you have decided to become a counselor or something. There's a 4-year journey here, and it's taken 4 years for the balancing to happen, okay? I don't know if we're 3 years into that timeline, okay? Or if this is 4 years ahead, because there's a recognition of a boundary being crossed and a need to move away, drop an old world, okay? There might be a 4-year journey up ahead, okay? But it speaks very clearly, and I'm picking up on a time frame that speaks on a storyline that speaks very much to a Scorpio out there that needs to put a boundary line with a relationship, with relationships, with family, with friends, with a connection. It is time to graduate to that next level of yourself, because something has happened here where you've seen how the role you have always played was ultimately allowing others to treat you in that way. And that can be a hard pill to swallow, Scorpio, I get it. Because, you know, like I said, there is a light and shadow to the role of the empath, and in that shadow element we're learning deeper wisdoms about the gift and the burdens that come with empathy, and how our shadow plays out within that role too, yeah? We want to be the empath, we want to make those good choices or feel for others or show compassion because that's what a good person does. All that sort of stuff. Dynamics, relationships, the wisdom. Hold on, darling. Sorry about that. Okay, so as I was saying, it is about the shadow and light elements of being an empath and how we're ultimately always ascending and growing through that role. Learning the deeper wisdoms behind having empathy, the boundaries that are needed, when we identify that they've been crossed, seeing that we're never really lonely, you know, but we can, at points in the timeline within the journey, feel alone in our awareness of self and how We've ultimately been shaped and formed, for better and worse, through the dynamics and connections within our life as well. I do feel I'm specifically talking to a Scorpio that is able to use their life path story. You have always played a certain role within your family and friend unit. Okay, and this is now expanding. So it's just this, it's that quintessential story of journey of when we go through trauma. Ultimately, we are in a position then where we've integrated our wisdom that we have been able to help others who are going through similar experience. And that is a true gift to the empath. I can genuinely say I know, because I have felt that too. I know what that feels like, yeah? The Judgment card, you are definitely closing up a chapter. Like with the World card, the Judgment card, the Six of Swords, the Karma, the Justice card, you are closing a chapter. You are hanging up your swords from an old role, old life, old conflict in many ways, thanks to the decisions and choices, the shifts in consciousness that you're going to be experiencing this month, Scorpio. When the Judgment card shows up, there is something being resurrected, an old dream, an old connection, an old idea. You are looking at the past because it has resurrected for a reason. You are reviewing the timeline for greater healing, awareness, ascension. You're releasing the inner turmoil and conflict that ultimately has come because of your Ten of Cups experience. What does true emotional fulfillment and love mean to you? The Ten of Cups is the family dynamic. It is our rainbow, our happy ending, yeah? You know, there's a new beginning here. Whatever the Ten of Cups means for you, emotional fulfillment, the happy family that never got to happen, internal conflict that's happening within a family, within a marriage. Looking back on the past of what was, old dreams, old goals, revisiting those. There's a new beginning. This Ace of Pentacles is the marriage card. It might be a refresh and a reset in an already existing. I might be talking to Scorpios that are releasing the old roles and dynamics they've always played within connection, intimacy, relationships. Thus, you are now able to review your whole karmic journey and begin again. Release the past, yeah? Start again. There might be an opportunity here to start again. New or existing. Divine love, the Lover's card is here. June might be significant. You might be dealing with a Gemini. We are definitely in a Venus retrograde, which falls under the sign of the twins, divine love. The Three of Swords, dealing with heartbreak, betrayals, having to show our true self to the world, to others, discovering the truth of others, and as masks fall away. Getting extreme clarity, thanks to the Ace of Swords that ultimately shifts fortune. The wheel turns, a whole new world is wanting to form, is starting to come into view. The King of Wands, the Eight of Wands, the Sun, the Ace of Wands. I've literally just come across three aces. There is three aces. This is new. A new version of you in the way you connect, in the way your role as an empath, your role within relationships, the dynamics you've always played, allowed, the boundaries that have been needed, settling things here through physically, through court or karmic justice, a balancing and ending. You're graduating into a whole new world, a whole new reality. And like I said, when we start to ascend and vibrate at a higher consciousness, a higher level, anything connected to the old version of us, connections, friendships, work roles, family, they fall away. Not forever. Sometimes forever, not always. Because we're vibrating up and we're drawing in new experiences, and that's what this is about for you, Scorpio. There is a bigger picture at play, and you have three aces. This is beginnings plus. You might not feel it at this point in the timeline when you're watching this in early May, but May offers you that deep transformation. Like I said, I think June is significant for you. This Venus retrograde season is significant for you. Okay? And how it ultimately shifts and transforms you out of your emotional body where it has perhaps been not in your favor at all times, into a more logical way in which you're able to quickly identify and get clear with what is right for you and what is not. And the role relationships have played within your life, you know. Okie dokie. I hope this has resonated, and if so, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.
I trust that May will offer some deep transformations for you, Scorpio. And until next time, I can't wait to see how this story unfolds when it comes to your new beginnings. Have a great month.